Okay, it's 5 o'clock and I'd like to call this meeting of the Ross Valley Sanitary District Regular Board Meeting, January 17th, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Director Meggs,
I'm here.
Director Silla, here. Director Borstein,
Here.
Director Gaffney,
Here.
Director Kelly.
Here. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this point, I'd like to adjourn to closed session. Mike, I'd like to reconvene to open session. We have nothing to report out for the closed session. Item 6, approval of agenda.
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So
Aye.
moved. Okay, now item 7, open time for public to raise items not on agenda or for future agendas. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Directors on matters within the district's jurisdiction but not on the posted agenda may do so. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The board may not take action on or discuss items not on the agenda, but may briefly respond to statements or questions by a member of the public. The board president may refer any matter to staff for further follow-up or elect to have the matter placed on an agenda for a future meeting. Do we have anybody who would like to? Nope. Okay. Committees report out. Finance Committee.
Finance Committee met yesterday and we discussed in some detail the monthly financials. We also discussed every other item in the consent calendar except the agenda, the minutes. And we noted that we received our December payments from for service charge and property tax. So we have a lot of cash.
Sewer rates. Yeah, we did have the beginning of the sewer rate study for this year. Mark Hildebrand came in, and the good news is that the yeoman's work was done 5 years ago for the last sewer rate study. And we didn't have to change a whole lot of things. And so it looks very comprehensive and good. And he answered a lot of questions. And on the next month or two, we'll bring it back to the full board to have a look at. But it means, are we allowed to say anything about it?
Yes, sir. There's no
Okay.
prohibition against that.
Okay. It called for a 3.5% for the next 5 years. So it's, everything seems extremely stable in our organization with everything that we're doing. And that's not even taking nothing taking into account. So
When you say a lot of the yeoman's work was done, do you mean because the formulas were set up?
Yes.
And then it's
because
just
remember all those extensive
Mhm.
spreadsheets with all the considerations, not a lot of things had to change between 5 years ago and now to the things that it was set to then that we put in. And so all of the, remember here's the high range, here's the low range, and here's if you do this is all the ranges were right down the middle again. So
Will you do a
we had,
presentation to the full board?
oh yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
we had higher rates that we had to approve.
Yeah.
The previous 5 years. And so they're well below those.
That's yeah, and
The board approves them.
also it's not just the sewer rate study, but we've combined the capacity charges and permit fee analysis into one item. So we'll be bringing that back to the full board, obviously, before initiating the Prop 218 process for proposed rate increases over the next 5 years. And we expect to bring that to a decision point, hopefully by May 22nd board meeting, I believe. That's a public hearing for it. And they'll be effective if everything goes according to plan. July 1st of the next fiscal year.
Thank you for reminding the two old guys on the finance committee.
Yeah.
Just
Thanks,
to
Michael.
just to help out the rest of the board. Thank you.
Education and Outreach Committee.
You want to do it or shall I?
I'm getting I had my eyes dilated. Why don't you go for it? And then, did you see the notes that Christina did too? They're fabulous.
Huh?
Yeah, she condensed some of it. So why don't you do as much as you want on this, and I think I can fill it.
All right, well, we learned that Courtney Buell had moved to LA, and she did a lot of stuff. So the jobs she was doing are kind of separated. Christina Velazquez is doing permits, webpage, events, website management. Christina Winnicky, GM Bulletin, Next Door, website management as well. The videos are still going to Gold Street. We talked about the accomplishments of 22, 23, ribbon cutting, the Comcast stuff we were doing and continue to do. The 121st anniversary manhole design was completed. We talked about some of the things that were not completed. Crew videos for pump stations, Save Our Bay organization website, not successful in getting their interest yet. So they're not interested in us. We're still interested in working with them. Talked about some of the outreach efforts are going to be suspended because they're just not really working right now. For example, tabling supplies, when you go somewhere and you put promotional materials on a table, well, with COVID, there's not a lot of that stuff going on. So we're kind of killing that. We're not giving RVSD supplies to Save Our Bay table because they don't really love us yet. We haven't done a lot of town fairs, but we might go back to San Samo next September. We talked about future outreach goals. Having outreach breakfasts in this room with other local governments, building departments, public works departments, plumbers, realtors, and others, which I think is a great idea. I really think that was a super idea. Other events, 1111 Anderson, we talked about the ribbon cuttings, manhole installations going on, continued Comcast campaigns, big truck day at San Domenico School, May 2024, bringing a big truck to San Domenico. Yep. And then we have some new PSA, public service announcements, video ideas, refresh the fog message, lateral enforcement activities, abbreviated crew video, and other things. We'll look at that. And then, of course, we're looking at our Larkspur Landing outreach, ongoing revenue from long-term lease, ranked most important. And so that's about it.
So, can you hear me now? Christina pulled together some condensed notes, and not to go over what Doug went over, but I might by mistake. Christina talked about that some areas may not have next door. So if you know of areas in your area where you live, Fairfax has some areas that they're just not getting next door. Please let us know. We also talked about change sustainability on website to public education. That was from Director Kelly. And then Steve to just discuss with Jason RVSD inclusion on the Save the Bay, and that maybe we could table rather than put it on hold. It's been back and forth for 12 years, I think. Yes, yes. And wait, hold on, let's see. Christina, you're going to check on pamphlets. So these are, some of these are, most of them actually are action items. Let me get down. We discussed updating the fog commercial to include more information about how fog affects, on my phone, affects the environment. And we're talking about running a PSA about district work, possible way to highlight 125 anniversary Larkspur Landing outreach. And I would say those are the most important ones. Thank you. We met for about almost 2 hours. It was a very good meeting.
Do we have a date for when we're going to have a ribbon cutting for this building?
I thought we were going to do it in May when we have our 125th anniversary.
Okay, great.
Was that the 28th, if I remember correctly? 27th. Oh, that's
Thank you.
not bad.
That's right. Yeah. Then that seems like a good combo.
Yeah.
event and gives us time to prepare and plan.
We'll
and
get you the
everything.
scissors.
Yeah, okay, good. That sounds good. And so we'll have a celebration because I don't think there's a whole lot of agencies outside of municipalities themselves that are that old. So we'll be the first to 125 in
Did you
the,
think
in the
it make-
Bay Area.
Would it make any sense to join the San Rafael Chamber?
Hmm. I told Dan Miller at the County of Marin elections we would invite him. Thank you, Christina. He's so happy with the way we are.
Great. Okay, Doug, you want to do
CMSA was a short meeting.
exactly how short was it, the record?
Yes, it was well run. I'll say that. It was damn well run. So we really the two big things is we authorized extra work for the installation of an exhaust pre-cooling system for the Jenbacher engine. So somebody slept on the job, and our Jenbacher engine its exhaust is heat beyond the level permitted. And that's because they left off something, a device. So that device is going to cost us, how much was that? Remember how much that was?
$98,000 or something. I don't remember.
$85,000 for the work. And we already have people on property. And so we just made a change work order because they're already on property and they're good at it. And so that's going to Bensgar Nasri construction. And they've got to put this big piece of equipment on this Jenbacher engine, which is going to be out of commission, which is really unfortunate. And we've got to pay for the device. We're not even sure how much that's going to cost yet. If I remember, I think it was 45,000.
What we did was we had to say, look, there may be damage being caused to the roof right now. So we have to do it now. And we don't know exactly who's going to pay for what and clearly the people who designed it should have designed it in and they didn't. And so they're going to do all that work for free.
Austrians?
No. We bought the Jenbacher from them, but it was a design group here that did it. And so there's going to be other people who are going to pay for parts of it. And we told Jason negotiate the hell out of it. But we have to do it. That's not optional.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. The good news is we have the backup engine. So
Yeah.
when the Jenbacher's down, the other one will be up running. And the other thing we did is we made a 5-year agreement for biosolids disposal and maintenance agreement with Redwood Landfill. That's really all, 33-minute meeting, maybe?
Yeah. Okay, everybody put your feet up because North Bay Watershed's going to take a long time. You're on, Pam. Oh, don't be embarrassed. I said the same thing to
Actually-
my board over at CMSA.
Actually, the food was good. We met at Perry's in Larkspur. It was like a yearly get together and it was actually very nice. And there were people there that I hadn't met and there were people there that hadn't been there in a long time. So it was rather fun. And I think conversations did open up more intimately because you're out of that meeting, the traditional meeting. Mary Sackett was there, supervisor, and Megan Clark was there. Michael was there. So anyway, we did discuss on projects we are really interested in. And I want Andy to talk about the Beaver project in West Marin. So that's my take on it. And we were there 2 hours, maybe longer.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Verbal reports by board members and requests for future items.
No, report
Oh,
by general
wait.
manager.
I skipped by our general manager. Verbal report by general manager.
Thank you, President Borstein. I just have, I guess, 4 items to quickly go through. One is our standing item of the site work here at 1111 Anderson. You might recall last month I mentioned a few things that I expected to see done in 3 to 4 weeks time, which is about now. And we did complete this pavement striping You can see the trees have gone in, so a lot of landscaping has been moved along. There's a pergola that was installed in the employee break area. So we're seeing some progress. And before the next board meeting, we expect to see the decorative fencing starting to be installed. It does have to undergo a powder coating process when we receive it next week, but hopefully you'll see the change before the next board meeting, even though it's coming up quick. So we're hoping for the best. We also still need to get the automatic gates in, some finish work on the pavers and the landscaping, as I mentioned, but also we've found somebody who can do the power washing of the building and the windows. And we should see a logo behind the dais probably by the next board meeting where that little piece of tape is. So that we're excited to show you that. And I think that's about it for my update there. So progress is slow and steady. My second item, we've mentioned it several times. There's a special board meeting next month. Instead of the normal third Wednesday, it'll be the second Wednesday, February 14th, 1 week early. The same time, although we can talk about having a different time to accommodate the closed session items. More to come. The third item on my update, an issue of interest is the City of Larkspur and their general plan process. They had a meeting scheduled for January 23rd, which is next Tuesday. It's been delayed until Tuesday, February 13th. I'd say they're still navigating public input in their housing element. But our participation in that process, we've seen no controversy around Larkspur Landing. It's really in the western portion of the city, on the west side of the freeway, and the potential properties there under consideration that's taking up all the interest in the public input. So we'll continue to monitor that process, and maybe by next board meeting we'll have some news, because it's the day after the 13th meeting. And then finally, the fourth item, we did receive and open bids on January 4th on the 23-24 gravity and sewer project. There were only 2 bidders. It was on the heels of the holiday season. So we didn't get as many bids, but we did receive a responsive bidder below engineering estimate. So it still looks good. And it's the engineer's estimate was 6.44 million. So it's a large job. It's over 3 miles of sewer in Green Bay, and especially in Green Bay, but some other areas, and in areas where we had spills in that big storm. So we're glad to be addressing with Capital Solutions. So the engineer's estimate 6.44 million, low bid was 5.99 million. So from Glossage Engineering. So we're planning to propose awarding the contract and adopting the initial study mitigated negative declaration at the upcoming February 14th meeting. And that's all for my updates.
Verbal report by board members and requests for future items. Doug?
I'll just mention that Gabe Paulson and I spoke today about Larkspur Landing, and he and I'll probably keep chatting. Dan Schwartz has put some regulations on that property, and I kind of mentioned him. I thought that should be a board level decision, not a town manager's level decision. And we're going to continue to talk about that. And by the way, I was following up on a different question he mentioned during the Coalition of Sensible Taxpayers debate last night. He said we can't do Zoom meetings for flood zone 9. And so I sent him an email message. I said, why is that? Because they meet in chambers of commerces. So I said, maybe we could talk to Steve and make this room available. So people should be able to see these meetings, and they should be recorded. So we're chatting about that too.
Funny you should mention that, because, and then I'll bring up, just in the past when we considered this space, we always talked about, boy, maybe we could consider in the future having it somehow be available to other entities. And there's no particular rush, but just to plant the, officially, can we please just have staff think about it and bring it up at future board meetings and with possible
cost would be.
ideas about what to, how we could possibly do that, would there be a cost? Are we going to have a staff come down and be here when people are using it? And, all those different things. But it's such a beautiful thing that we built here. And I would love to have other people be able to use it in an economic and
And if you remember, for years, we were at Central Marin Police Department,
yeah.
and this is a much better room.
May I,
No,
may
please.
I add a point of information to this discussion? I think I appreciate the idea, and it's certainly something that's been discussed, previously. I would just say that in terms of like what Director Kelly mentioned a little bit earlier, off the public meeting, we still need lighting in the parking lot, for example.
You do.
So there's some sort of logistic things that we want to complete. I would suggest to the board that perhaps after the district's maybe anniversary celebration and ribbon cutting, that we look at it at that point in time, and in the intervening time that staff do research as suggested about, what kind of costs and logistics might be involved in that kind of offer.
Yeah.
Great.
With no time frame.
Well, I can offer up some time frame, maybe.
Okay.
Summer.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Pam, Mary.
Can I just say they meet twice a year? So, and I'm not even sure they do it at night.
Anyway. Okay.
Could you use your microphone? Oh, could you use a microphone?
Oh,
Thank you.
requests for future items or just verbal
Yeah,
report? on-
it's, okay, so the verbal report is on the disability bathroom. It's awesome. And it has the high-rise toilet, so it's perfect. The other thing is about, could we get an update on the Larkspur Landing? I think that was one of the things that I missed in Christina's notes that we talked about it in the education committee. I think it would be helpful for me anyway, and the public kind of, because it sort of dropped off quite a bit. Has it been a year, maybe something like that? And then I'm just going to give this announcement. There is a fundraiser for open space on the 20th at the Deer Park Villa to purchase the wall property. It's 100 acres. If it all works out, it'll be the biggest land grab for open space in decades, I believe. And it's $40 suggested price. So I might have overstepped my boundaries, but there you go.
Nobody else? Okay. Consent calendars. Matters listed under this item are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion. The consent calendar may include resolutions. Therefore, the motion, second, and vote will also be applicable to the resolutions and recorded accordingly. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by a member of the board or the public prior to the time the board votes on the motion to adopt. Would anybody like to pull anything off the
like to-
consent?
Just pull D.
Item D. Okay, well then, can we just do item,
Why don't we just go discuss item D real quick? Then we can. just
yeah,
move on.
item D, and then we'll vote on the whole thing.
I'm just curious. Apparently, there's 3 cameras for sale for excess. 2 maybe worth $3,000 and one's worth nothing. Is it just broken?
Yeah, currently one of the screens and the operating screen is failed, and the other 2 are operational, but they aren't using the same data collection system as our TV cameras and the newer reels that we currently use right now.
Okay, thank you. I'd move the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Discussion and approval of adopting a revised board policies and procedures document. That's item 12.
Very good. Thanks, President Borstein. This item it was spearheaded by our board clerk, and in the spirit of periodically reviewing policies and making updates. And there aren't really any substantive changes proposed except for one policy addition on the selection process for board appointments that we conduct each year. And we thought that was a useful process to document for the board policies packet, and that we distributed. I think it was about 2 years ago when we originally compiled all the board policies into one place for your reference. And so what I would say is most of the changes in the red line version that you see are more clerical in nature and reorganizing the documents into policies and procedures. So it's really a nice reorganization that Christina Winnicky spearheaded. And I think with that, I'd like to hand it over to Christina to add, or Felicia to add any additional insight on what's proposed. And then we welcome feedback. We don't have, the board doesn't have to make a decision today to adopt, but if the board is comfortable moving forward with this reorganization of the board policies for clarity's sake, you have the option to do so. So anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that really covers it. Just to point out to the board that there are 2 attachments to this item. One is the red line, which also has some green lines because those are added language. And then the red line is, moved language. And then the red line is added language or deleted language. So again, green is moved and the red line underline is new. And obviously the strikeout is recommended to be deleted. And then for ease of reading actually through the board policy compendium, starting on board packet page number 111 is attachment B. And then you'll see a little bit more easily the actual proposed table of contents, the policy names, the order of the policies, and then of course each of the policies without the red line. So quite a bit easier, I think, on the eyes, if you will, to review. And then just to echo what Steve said, a lot of wordsmithing, a lot of good clarity of language changes, but no real substantive changes of note. So with that, Christina, if you'd like to add anything. Okay. And we're available to answer any questions.
Go ahead, Pam, please. Did you press your button?
Thank you. Christina, fabulous job here. A lot of wordsmithing, a lot of patience to do this kind of work. I was curious, the shalls went to wills, and I haven't seen that so much. And I'm just curious, how did that come about? It's okay, but I'm trying to.
What page is that?
To wills.
A lot of the shalls and shoulds were changed to wills.
Funny, I heard shelves.
Shells and wheels.
I took a policy writing class that pretty clearly called out that shall is old language now and is not really current, and is also confusing when people read. They don't really know, is shall, should, is it will, where
right.
will is actually more direct active language.
And I noticed a lot of those changes.
So anyway, thank you.
I shall take exception to that.
I have one, I have some typos that I found, and I'd like to just tiny little things. I may be wrong on it, but one thing on page 110, board packet 110, positions on the board, president, secretary, treasurer, alternate secretary, alternate treasurer. I propose we get rid of those 2 offices. I don't think it's kind of ridiculous.
I agree.
Board
Well, I
packet
think the idea
110.
was that if somebody's out of town and something needs to be signed or done. Now, I don't know whether that happens, but
Well, the treasurer isn't needed because a lot of people can sign for the treasurer. Am I not right on that?
I'm sorry, I
You
may
know,
have missed the
the
question.
treasurer is used for sometimes a second signature,
Correct.
but you can get second signatures from a number of people.
Other
right?
board members, generally speaking, sure, like for resolutions and whatnot.
No.
Mhm.
And then alternate treasurer. I mean, we never use that. I think we ought to get,
There are elected by the board annually. One other item of note on that particular policy, we noted that there might be some redundancy in the policy statement of the first two sentences. So perhaps the second sentence is, not necessary to the policy statement. And additionally, I would like to add, because Christina mentioned as well, she took this workshop actually through CSDA. So it was very beneficial, specific to special districts and how policies are developed, and to make the distinction between policies and procedures, which she's done, I think, a really good job in this document of not only identifying the policy for the board, but the procedure that the board and or staff would follow in these individual circumstances. So thank you, Christina, for the work that you've done here.
Were there other typos, Tom?
I will give my
Oh,
typo suggestions.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
I thought it was interesting just that we at our discretion, if there's an appointment necessary, can agendize it and make it,
Right off the
or
bat.
we can go out and ask the public. And I understand that Christina was only changing that from that being, options that were at our discretion. But it did sort of surprise me. I guess the noticing of a public meeting where we're going to do it is the same as going out to the public. But anyway, my impulse would be to say, maybe we should consider saying that we would go out to the public,
And eliminate the
like
choice.
regardless of whether we thought we knew somebody we were going to appoint to the board. But anyway, that's more of a substantive.
I think, this is what every town council does. They let people apply and they take all the applications. Seems like a logical way to do it.
Yeah, and
Then you pick your
eliminate
best
the-
friend.
Eliminate setting it up.
It's fun to watch Andrea shake her head. This is all on the record, Doug, all on the record. So I mean, I guess anyway, would we want to entertain editing it, or will we just trust our future discretion that we would always go out to the public?
I think it should be that you always go out to the public. We always go out to the public and ask for applications and interview anybody who wishes to fill out an application. As long as they're in the district.
Okay, so just have that one.
So just
rid of the-
remove immediate appointment and go to public solicitation for candidates. I mean, I guess is the concern that the board couldn't operate well if we had an open
It's still four.
seat.
It's a quorum.
Christina, was there something from your training that weighed in on such a thing? Or is this standard what we have?
That was just the existing policy that you had both of those options originally. I didn't add that additional policy.
I think the board should take applications and interview people.
I do too.
Okay, well then I believe we could just remove.
Yeah. Remove number one.
Everything, yeah, from board, under the blue to B and make B A.
And what page are you on?
Oh, sorry, it is on board packet 82.
And also board packet 123.
123 is the easy one. That's
The
the clean
clean
one.
copy.
Oh,
That's the
that's
new one.
hilarious. I don't want to see I want to see what changed. Like that's the whole story. Then I was like, what's this one back here? Yeah,
So can I make a comment here?
of course.
In my role as trying to think of what could possibly go wrong and then how to resolve that, I wonder if the approach of immediate appointment is left in here in case there's some crazy situation. Like if you lose two board members at once, but by law, you have to have 4 of 5 of you to vote on something. You might not have time to go through the notice of vacancy and the application form, et cetera, et cetera. This doesn't require you to do an immediate appointment. You always have the possibility. I'm just a little tiny bit nervous about completely wiping out the possibility. Although frankly, just because the policy says it, I would say one could probably argue that if the statute allows you to do an appointment, you still could. But
Okay.
that's what I'm wondering
No,
if
that's
that's
the point
why it
really
was
well
left
taken.
in here.
Thank you. Thank you for thinking of that worst case
Well,
scenario.
instead of, if we did that, instead of calling it an immediate appointment, I'd call it an emergency appointment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it does say, well, immediate, I see.
Yeah,
Or we
That's fine. I just don't want you to only have the option that takes a few weeks, just in case of a totally unanticipated situation.
Yeah, or we could put if immediate appointment determined to be necessary. The
Sure,
board of directors will consider and discuss.
sure. That would limit it.
If immediate appointment is deemed by the board to be necessary, then we just do it. But otherwise,
Yeah.
the standard practice would be public solicitation of
Yes.
candidates. Okay. Thank you.
so if nobody has anything else at this time, and this is a living document, and we can come back and address this.
Pardon, I
anytime.
just have a quick
Oh,
question about that
Christina,
edit.
please.
I'm so sorry. So if an immediate appointment is deemed necessary by board,
By the board.
If the board
Vote.
determines that an immediate appointment is required, then they
by
take step back.
board vote.
Yep.
Right. I'm asking.
sure.
Right.
Sure.
And any determination by the board would have to be
Oh,
through
right.
a
As we
vote.
talked about the quorum thing. Okay.
Okay, so
Would you like a motion?
discussion and approval, yeah.
Okay, then I move, we
Please.
adopt the revised board policies and procedures document with the slight amendment that we just discussed.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
It's a unanimous vote, and
thank
on to
you.
the next. Thank you, Christina. That's amazing.
I know, we didn't used to have great policies and procedures, and now we have perfect.
10 years ago,
policies.
didn't we have to hire a company to come in and help us do it?
Yeah.
Or what was that? Which one was that?
RGS.
RGS.
Mary Brown works for them now.
Wow. There you go. Okay.
The CMSA is looking for a clerk of the board, by the way.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mentioned that in my report out.
What's happening?
CMSA needs a
CMSA,
clerk of the board.
Adriana had a lovely baby, and her husband got appointed to captain of the Napa Fire Department. And they determined with a young baby and the higher salary of the captain, it would be nice for her to stay home, and everybody supported that. And she's going to stick with us for a couple more months to help us in transition. So item 13, consideration of authorizing the general manager to approve a purchase order with Rockwell Solutions of Walnut Creek for an emergency bypass pump in the total amount of $99,818.
Oh, good. Yeah. Thank you, President Forstein. And I just would like to note that this item was approved under the budget that from this fiscal year, that we identified the need for this emergency bypass pump as a tool in our toolbox for especially the wet season, but also when we have maintenance issues that may come up unforeseen. And something that our operation maintenance manager, Paul Brummer, has identified as something that when he came in, an item that would really strengthen our resiliency as a district. And so I'd like to hand it over to Paul to explain the process he went through to identify this particular pump that he's recommending.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time. Like Steve said, this was a well thought out item for our budgeting this fiscal year. When I first got here, we reviewed a lot of the emergency bypass equipment, procedures, emergency response plans we've been going through. And currently we have 4-inch trash pumps that we can utilize for sewer main bypasses, but unfortunately they're not large enough to do pump station bypass or some of our larger trunk line bypassing. Currently, right now, if we need a pump, we have to call a company in Richmond who has to call us, if it's after hours, call somebody in, get the equipment together, deliver it out, get it set up. You're looking 2 to 6 hours window. And if we're dealing with pump station issues, overflows, those 6 hours can be very costly and unbeneficial to our department, or the district. So I would like to recommend this larger trailered bypass pump. It's not the cheapest of the 3 that we got quotes for, as you can see, but there are definite benefits to getting this other pump. It has a larger pumping capacity at 80 feet ahead, which is vertical pumping, 80 feet up. It can pump over 400 gallons more than either of the other pumps. It can lift higher suction heads, which we can large, deeper pits, deeper lines. We can get the pump up and pumping farther. And we can also utilize it at some of our larger stations. The station should be able to handle pump station 14, some of these other stations, 13. It would be close, but it would definitely get us by in a pinch. And part of these capital improvement projects that we've been doing, we've been adding suction lines into the wet well directly. So we could just drive the pump up, hook up, and start pumping away. And before Noel left, one of the initiatives I took was to install cam lock fittings on all these suctions and discharges. Before, they were all blind flange bolted together. You had to unbolt them, put the other fitting on and whatnot. Right now, we're set up to do an immediate bypass. Pull the pump up, you hook up the hose to the fitting, start pumping. So you save you at least an hour minimum changing fittings and whatnot. So we're really set up for this piece of equipment. Excuse me. I've used this style pump before in the treatment plant. It's actually a Vaughn chopper pump. They use it in the septic receiving station. So if you've ever seen the septic tanks show up, you know it's a lot of T-shirts, a lot of rags, gravel, rocks, and it grinds it all up. This pump also, we don't need to have a suction strainer because it can take the rags, the wipes, the roots, and it grinds it up at the pump and pushes it straight through. Really robust pump. And yeah, any questions? Oh, Tom did have a question about a Sourcewell discount. This equipment is not eligible for Sourcewell.
This seems to be some heavy duty.
Microphone on, please. Microphone.
It is a large pump.
Microphone on, please.
Is it?
I'm sorry. It's a heavy duty pump that could suck your arm off.
Yes, sir, but enclosed.
What's an optional float? I don't understand what an optional.
So optional floats is a connection that you would pull your trailer up, hook up your hoses, and you throw the float assembly, you say, into a manhole. So the pump doesn't have to run all the time. When that float gets triggered, when the water comes up, it turns the pumps on and starts pumping automatically.
It won't burn up then.
No, it won't burn up. You can also, there's other integrations. You can use ultrasound or submersible level transmitters, which we use right now in our pump stations. And that basically measures the level of water and pressure and tells you what the level is, and it does an automatic pumping. And this could also be available to hook up to a cellular communication. So we could actually get it set up on SCADA one day if we really wanted to. So you could actually monitor it from home, from your laptop, see if it's running, if it's not, if it's on, off, and any faults that are any conditions in it.
So I get that it chops the hair and grinds all that stuff up. What would the Thomason Association offer of a Gorman-Rupp pump do? What is that pump?
No chopping, no pumping.
Really?
No.
Why is it
It's
so much
basically the pumps that we are replacing at lift station 20. Those are Gorman-Rupp sump pumps. So basically it's a high suction lift, but it's the same pump that we are currently removing at some of our other stations because of the trouble that we've had with them.
Okay. So you don't think it's worth $40,000 more?
No, sir.
Okay.
And I'm sure finance asked, well, so where are we getting the other $19,818?
So as stated in the staff report, we did have some good CIP savings from the VATCON purchase, the construction truck purchase, and some of the other items that we were able to come in under budget. So the funds will be available in that account.
Great, thank you.
And I think our general manager mentioned that had we had this pump in his trial by fire first week at the district, we would have avoided some of that nasty KPIX overflow that we had.
Well, and as a nearby resident of Pump Station 15, yeah. 2 to 6 hours
Year-round.
makes a huge difference.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, please. If there are no more.
I move that we authorize the GM to approve the purchase of a new 2024 Vaughn model enclosed 6-inch dry pine portable trailer mounted chopper pump in the total amount of $99,818.
Second,
Second.
Does it have a stereo component to it?
turbocharged. Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Unanimous vote. Informational items, monthly operations and maintenance metrics report, December 2023.
Yes, so our monthly metrics report, lots of interesting tidbits in here. I'll in a moment hand it over to Paul to talk about the activities of the cruise. I'll point out a couple things, on board packet, page 169, which is page 7 and 21. We now have our map that shows the different basins of the district that pump from the different, or that drain to the different pump stations that pump into the force main system to CMSA. One thing, you don't have it in front of you, but last month's report from the November time period. So this is the December time period, right? The total pump station flow from our large pump station at Kentfield was actually lower as far as the pie goes. This is something interesting to track this year as we have the SCADA information. It's not completely totally accurate. There's some asterisks, there's some error in these measurements, but that we're working on to refine. But we're learning the relative flow story. And so it was actually last month, it was 59% of the flow. So under more dry weather conditions, November, not December, but there are more dry conditions in November. And so in October and November, we were tracking at 60% or less coming from the Kentfield pump station. Now with wet weather in play, we're seeing it being a higher percentage of the total flow pumped. So that's interesting. It's up to 62%. So we'll continue to track that and probably do a retrospective on it for the annual metrics report to analyze, the dynamics of the relative pumping in our district. It might give us some ideas on what priority I control that we can target. If we skip ahead to page 173 of the board packet, we had a little bit of a down month for recycled water use in December, but in November, December, we still did use another 40,000. So we had increased our use after less use during the summer, but we took a pause to retrofit our trucks to be able to do a dechlorination step where we put tablets in a Venturi type tube that the hose from the recycled water fill station goes into, thereby using sodium bisulfite to dechlorinate the water before it goes into the tank. And really the driver there is we're seeing some wear and tear on the equipment. And we mentioned this when we were talking to the Marin Municipal Water District when they wanted to mandate recycled water used for all sewer cleaning. We pointed out we'd had some issues with the chlorine levels. So I really want to hand it to staff on coming up with a very creative solution. It doesn't add any more time. It's just nominal cost to do the bisulfite tablets, but it's probably going to be good for our equipment's longevity. And then it's the chlorine level in the recycled water is pretty high, and it is maybe slightly irritating, to breathe it or to get it on your skin and that sort of thing. So, it's sort of a quality of life thing too, for our staff. So
Where do you put the little tablets? I mean, is there?
yeah, you put them in really simultaneous, right? Or you put it in the Venturi.
Yeah, so it's like a T fitting.
Gotta hear the microphone.
I'm getting used to it too. There's a T fitting on the fill line, and on the top there's a screw cap where you drop tablets in. So as the water goes through to fill the truck, it just creates a venturi and it neutralizes it as it goes by.
Yeah, complete mix, and so it goes in.
It's not, you didn't want to use recycled water in the new truck, right?
Yeah, in the new VATCon.
That's
right?
not changing.
Right.
Okay.
At any rate, we're still on a pretty good pace. Almost 200,000 gallons reused, and then of course I would be remiss to not mention that we had no spills in December, so that was good. And yeah, I don't have much more than that. So we're happy to answer any questions about the data. But Paul, do you have anything you want to highlight?
Yeah, the repair crew worked out at behind the AT&T building over Magnolia Avenue and King Street. Condition assessment was doing some work in the area and found a lot of collapsed pipe around our rod hole that was there in the middle of that line. Utilizing a supervisor review function, which sent it to repair for review. We took a look at it, and instead of going in and putting a patch repair, we actually excavated it, which took care of the broken pipe, but also allowed us to put in a new manhole. So we have a lot better access into the system rather than just a rod hole. They poured a new base, cone, barrel, everything. So we have a brand new manhole behind the AT&T building for better access. Something initiative we've really been working on is, I've talked to you before about it, but lost or missing nodes, manholes that could become buried from dirt or people putting stuff on top of them. I worked with Patrick, and we've come up with a layer and info asset, so that if staff are in an area, the manholes that are missing or just unaccounted for at the time are in the hot pink square. So it's really easy for staff to identify them when they're out in the field.
How does a manhole go missing?
Burial, there's landslides,
Oh, okay.
easements.
It's there. You just can't find it.
Yeah. So
It's like, are they leaving? Are they getting ripped off? What's going on here?
Yeah, so we actually track that as staff are doing flushing work orders or whatnot. If they can't find it, we pin it so that we have a running list. So it's a goal of mine to get rid of all these lost and all be found manholes. But so at least if staff are working in the area, they say, oh, okay, there seems to be something missing in this area. Let me wander over here 100 feet and see if I can locate it while I'm here. So it's been pretty good. In this last month, they found a total of 10 missing nodes, 8 of which were verified, and we're using in-ground stake markers, so they're easier to find at night and whatnot, and 2 rod holes that need to get excavated to be dug up. So hopefully we can get through these, and but I think it's going to be a really good project to get through and make sure we have all the access we need to our system. Steve talked about the sodium bisulfite diffusers a little bit, and the pump station crew at pump station 24. Last fiscal year, we had replaced one of the pumps. They had pulled them for annual maintenance and found them both to be pretty heavily corroded, and the body's very thin. So we had enough funds last fiscal year to replace one, and then we budgeted this fiscal year to replace the other one. So right now you have 2 brand new pumps at pump station 24 over on South Elysia, 630 South Elysia. So hopefully many more years of good service over there. And we have a pretty much revamped system with the new generator and all the other project work we've done over there. So hopefully it's problem free for years to come.
Yeah, and that's one of those little sewer sheds that's on that new map I showed you. It's pump station 24. It serves a neighborhood there in Green Bray next to South Elysium. But without that pump, that wastewater can't get into the pressure force main system to CMSA, or those two pumps.
Yeah.
So interesting part of our infrastructure.
I wonder if you could put a black dot where the pump is on this map.
It might be a little tight.
They're all jammed together.
Yeah, they're all kind of, it's close quarters in that area there.
So if there's any other questions, or you guys have any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Anything going on spill wise recent?
Yeah, unfortunately, we did just have a spill. It was on, I don't have it here.
387 Madrone Avenue
Oh,
in Larkspur.
yeah. So unfortunately, when staff got there, loads and loads of wipes,
Yeah.
a lot of wipes, 387 Madrone.
Larkspur.
In Larkspur. Unfortunately, this house and this lot where this rod hole is was right next to a watershed. So we did lose about 80% of it. We were able to scrape up a lot of garbage bags and get a lot of the dirt and soil and whatnot that was saturated. But after further inspection, we found some gravel that may be coming from some laterals that we're still researching and going to do some dye testing.
Yeah.
Do we know the house responsible for the wipes?
There's actually 75 houses above. So right now I'm working on getting some updated door hangers with the new address. So as soon as those come in, they've been ordered. We're going to go inundate that neighborhood with door hangers saying we had a spill. Please quit using the wipes. And
Don't quit using them. Just stop flushing them.
well, I agree.
Use them all you want.
That's what the door hangers say.
Yeah.
Don't flush them.
And you know what? If you're doing new ones because of the address, maybe you could change the wording a little bit, because recently these did cause a spill.
That is actually the door hanger that we're getting printed right now. It says the staff had recently had a spill in your neighborhood, and this is why. I mean, they pulled 3/4 of a bucket of wipes out of one manhole after they relieved the spill. It was a lot.
How much water?
About 900 gallons. It was quite a spill.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. So we won't be shocked next month. You know.
See, the final informational item has stuff about San Rafael San.
Oh yeah, well,
Any commentary on that, or we're just,
well,
Are we done now?
we're
oh, okay,
done with
we are going to talk
metrics.
about it. Okay.
The metric, that's a different item. Okay, yeah, but yeah, any questions on the metrics?
Well, I
can
think
wrap
we
it up.
should give out information at maternity wards to the new mothers. Hand out those.
Well, Education Outreach Committee. Yeah. Yeah.
Informational items B, letter from San Rafael Sanitary.
Yeah, so at the board's request, we put the letter that San Rafael Sanitation District sent to Central Marin Sanitation Agency, and then the attached
Staff report.
memo and staff report that Doris Toy, the district manager of San Rafael Sanitation District, had put together for the options that they're exploring. So I don't have any staff report or presentation prepared for this, but just allowing the board to be able to ask questions or discuss.
Would you keep in touch with Jason Dow on that?
Yeah, we're in touch. We have the
monthly meeting.
We have a joint Powers Authority Managers meeting that meets last Thursday of each month. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but it's the reason why we put this on here was to allow the board to talk about it publicly and ask us any questions you may have, or discuss this issue amongst yourselves.
Good.
So the district is they're going to look at these 1, 2, 3, 4 alternatives. Is that happening?
Yes, there's really 3 options that they've narrowed things down to on board packet.
Three, yeah.
On board packet 187, they're in red. And so they're doing a strategic planning initiative driven by a challenge to retain staff and recruit staff for the sewer department. It's a sanitation district, but they have a shared services agreement with the city of San Rafael. So the employees of the sanitation district are city employees. And so you can see the number 3, they've narrowed their alternatives analysis through their strategic planning to the 3 alternatives that are in red ink. And so number 3 is retain the city support services, but convert staff to district employees, not city employees. That's one thing they're looking at doing. The second thing they're considering is establishing a separate representation for district personnel. I'm told that probably won't occur. That's not likely because of some issues with the way it would work out at the SEIU union and the procedures there. It would be pretty hard to do. And so then the third option, number 6, is enter into a shared services agreement with CMSA or other JPA members, any or all services. And just to explain that a little bit, they have a shared services agreement now with the city of San Rafael. And this is an alternative where they would shift that to CMSA. And the shared services include, I did speak with Doris about this, and the shared services include HR, payroll, IT, training, and these type of things. GIS system that city runs. So if they change to CMSA, then CMSA would have to supply all those things, or they would otherwise have to figure out how to supply them themselves. So that's a little insight into their process.
And what do you think about 6?
Yeah, I don't have any strong opinions about it. I'm just waiting to see what the district just decides is a good choice for them.
Okay.
Do we have any interest in doing in providing the sewage collection services of the city that we're actually sitting in right now?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
I think there's certainly capacity and expertise and resources at Ross Valley Sanitary District to assist as may be requested, desired, required. But it seems to be pretty early in the process for their agency for us to say anything really more than that.
Okay. I mean, I guess it echoes back a little bit to the San Quentin, contracting directly with CMSA and not contracting with us, RVSD, but we are the collections experts and we've gotten a lot better at that since that time. So anyway, I couldn't imagine a better time just to contemplate it. And I think we'd be doing the residents of San Rafael. I mean, I know I've heard that the San Rafael pipes are not well maintained. And Marie, our former swim coach, had a big sewage spill when she was out of town and was not happy at all with the way it went. So anyway, I think that it would be an opportunity if staff wanted to think about it.
Yeah, shouldn't San Rafael come to us? I mean, I'm kind of surprised they go to Central Marin, a treatment agency, a good one. They don't have any.
But Kate has sat on that board, so maybe that's just what she thought she should do.
There was some precedent, that when I asked this question, similar question, the answer I received from San Rafael was in the mid 1980s, they did this before. That they brought their treatment plant staff over to CMSA because they had to shift services from treatment services at San Rafael to CMSA. So they have they look at it as a template that they were going to use that they'd used before, even though it's not collection. It's treatment that what they used before. So that's a starting point for them. They haven't approached Ross Valley Sanitary District for at this time.
And I would add that, and I appreciate your comments, Director Silla. I think I would also add that by going to CMSA, they are, in a sense, coming to Ross Valley Sanitary District because Ross Valley Sanitary District makes up 2 members of the CMSA board. And so that I think is an appropriate place to start as any.
And it does say, or other JPA member, right? Members in parentheses. So
Exactly.
I mean, we're sitting in San Rafael. We have the best team in the state. Anyway,
And Corte Madera could do it.
you're right.
Corte Madera has their pump stations cared for by CMSA.
And that is recognized. And, when this item was suggested last month, I reviewed the JPA agreement. And the JPA agreement explicitly recognizes, the current state of services that CMSA provides for JPA agencies or San Quentin. It's all laid out as an updated description. And in the JPA agreement, there is a provision with the agreement of the CMSA commissioners, 2 of which are from Ross Valley Sanitary District, that additional services may be provided by CMSA. It's not specific to treatment or collections, pump stations whatsoever. So there is the provision for this type of alternative that they're exploring.
Right. But CMSA isn't going to use SCADA to map their entire system and put on, smart covers and make it a better system.
Let's let this play out a little bit. I think that time will be favorable.
Excellent.
Currently, Santa Fe's mapping is on our system
Oh,
already.
really?
It's all in there. So we have the capacity in our computers to do that.
All right. I'll take it down a notch. Thank you.
Okay, so our next meeting is our special meeting on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2024. So I'm sure we're going to have lots of people coming to the meeting that day at 5 p.m. at 1111 Anderson Drive, Santa Fe, and meeting adjourned.